Daf Tes Zayin Amud Beis, the second line from the top. Continuing with the discussion about the Aron HaKodesh, we learned previously that according to Rav Yochanan, the Aron was made out of a amma of 6 tvachim. So since we had the Aron, the length of the Aron was 2.5 ammas. Each amma was 6 tvachim. It was a total of 15 tvachim. Inside were the luchos. There were 4 luchos, 2 luchos and 2 shivit luchos. Each luach was 6 by 3 or 3 by 6 tvachim. Therefore, if you had 4, you had the width of each luach was 3, then times 4 is 12. So they placed the luchos keneged, the width keneged the length of the Aron. So that left a gap, an extra space of 3 tvachim. There was a half a tefach each side for the thickness of the wall of the Aron, and that left a gap of the 2 tvachim that the Sefer Torah was placed inside, 2 tvachim for the Sefer Torah. Continuing on now with Rav Yochanan's discussion on the width of the Aron, Rachba shel Aron tisha tvachim. The width of the Aron was 9 tvachim. Dirshu, it says amma v'chetzi rachba. The width was 1.5 amma. So again, if each amma is 6 tvachim, 1.5 is 9. Amsa ashisa. There was an amma the amma is 6 tvachim. So amma ashisa, the amma is 6 tvachim. Upalgos amsa tlasa, and then half of it is 3. So that's a total of 9. Like we mentioned before, there were 4 luchos that were placed inside. Shnaim shleim v'shnaim shvorim, 2 whole and 2 broken ones. T'chsiv asher shibarta v'samta ba'aron. Asher shibarta, the luchos that you broke v'samta ba'aron, and we darshan that put that in the Aron as well. So haluchos hayu kol echad v'echad archan shisha tvachim. As we mentioned, the luchos were 3 by 6. The length was 6, and v'rachban shleisha tvachim, and 3 tvachim wide. Tain rachban shel tain arkan shel luchos l'rachban shel Aron. Place the length of the luchos parallel to the width of the Aron. So put that to the corresponding to the width parallel to the width of the Aron. Nishtayr sham shleisha tvachim. So you have an excess of 3 tvachim. Chatzi tefach mikan lekaisel zeh, half a tefach for one wall on one side. Chatzi tefach mikan lekaisel zeh, and another half a tefach for the wall on the other side. Utvachayim l'shilud malkam sefer Torah munach. And the extra space is that you had to be able to maneuver the Sefer Torah. You had that gap to maneuver the Sefer Torah and to be able to place it and take it in and put it out, take it in and put it out. So you had on each side, you had a tefach gap on each side that you can insert the Sefer Torah. So therefore, that's how it fit in, that you had an extra tefach on the top and the bottom, that you can take the Sefer Torah from both ends and take it out and put it in. And that's how, according to Rav Yochanan, you had the dimensions of the Aron. Now, coming back now to the next sheet of Rav Shimon ben Lakish, he holds that the kelim of the Mishkan each amma was comprised of not 6 tvachim, but 5 tvachim. So going through the same exercise according to Reish Lakish, how does it work with the luchos and the Aron, with the dimension of the luchos and the Aron? So Rav Shimon ben Lakish, he says, he says the Aron was made, it was a amma comprised of only 5 tvachim. So man Tana ba'ama bas chamisha tvachim, who's the Tana that holds this way? It's Rabbi Yehuda. Tana's Rabbi Yehuda Tanina, Taman we learned in the Mishnah. We learned in the Mishnah of Kelim that Rabbi Yehuda Omer amas habinyan shisha. In terms of the dimension of the structure of the Mishkan, each amma was comprised of 6 tvachim. But shel kelim chamisha, but the kelim was comprised of only 5 tvachim. Vahen Aron kliu. The Aron HaKodesh is considered to be a kli. We consider it to be a kli because it was moved. They transported it. So therefore, I'll die to the Rabbi Yehuda according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Do Amar Bama Bas Shel Va'amad shel chamisha tefachim haya arka also. So the length of the aron was an amad. Each amad comprised of 5 tefachim. So therefore, you had a total of not 15 tefachim like we learned before, but only 12 and a half, because it was 2 and a half. So shnei masar tefach umechsa d'chsiv amasayim v'chetzi arka. It was 2 and a half. The length was 2 and a half amas. Amsa chamisha. One amma is 5 tefachim. V'amsa chamisha. Another amma is 5. It's a total of 10. Upalgas amsa, and then a half of an amma. Half of 5 is 2 and a half. Treyapoli. So you had a total of 12 and a half. Then you place the luchos in the aron. Of arba luchos hayuboy, there were 4 luchos. Shnaim shleimim, shnaim shvurim. D'chsiv asher shibarata v'samtam ba'aron. So therefore, he had a total of 4. And the rachman shlishat tefachim. Each luach was 3 by 6. So therefore, if you had 4, then if you had 4 and each one that you had, the width was 3, that's a total of 12. Tain rachman shaluchais ale arka shel oron. So put the width of the 4 tablets. So you have the width of the 4 tablets, which is a total of 12. Put them along the length of the aron, the 12 and a half amma length of the aron. So when you place it, then you place the luchos, the width of them along the length of the aron. The length of the aron is 12 and a half. So therefore, what you'll have over here is you take the luchos and you put it along the length of the aron. All you're going to have is the extra amount, that's the extra space, there is no extra space because you have 12 that has to be put into an area of 12 and a half, and you have the thickness of the walls. Now, as opposed to a Rav Yochanan that said that the thickness of the walls was a half of a tefach, he holds that it's only an esba, a quarter of a tefach. So you have 12, and that's placed into the length of 12 and a half. You have the thickness of the wall on each side. So as opposed to Rav Yochanan that said that there was a gap over here, that there's an extra gap, a space over here of tefachim where they put the Sefer Torah. Over here, there is no gap because you're putting the luchos, you're putting the width of them corresponding to the length. So you have 12 that are coming across. It fills the entire space. Now continuing on, the width of the aron was 7.5. It says an amma and a half, which was the width. Now he holds that the ammas comprise only 5 tvachim. Amsa chamish. The amma has 5 tvachim. Upalgus amsa and a half. It's 1.5. A half is straight. Upalgus is 2.5. So you have a total, therefore, of 7.5. V'arba luchos hayuboy, and there were 4 luchos. Shnaim shleimim v'shnaim shvurim. 2 complete and 2 broken ones. D'chsiv asher shibarta v'samtam ba'aron. It says asher shibarta v'samtam ba'aron. So therefore, you have to put it there. Luchos hayu kolachem v'echad arka shisha tefachim, and the luchos was each one considered like 6 tefachim. So you put the 4. You put 1, 2, 3, 4. You put it along 1, 2, 3, 4. You're putting the facing this way of the aron. So you have the long side is connected the width of the aron. So this is 6. This is the aron. The width is 7.5. The length of the luch is 6. So you have 1.5, a gap of 1.5. So luchzai kolech ved arkan shisha tvachim verach one shlisha tvachim, and the width was 3. Tain arkan larach v'shel aron. So take the length of it, put it along the width of the aron. You have a remainder of 1.5. Esva l'kaisel mikan. So again, it's an esva for the thickness of each wall, a quarter of a tefach. Esva l'kaisel mikan, and you have an esva on the other side. That's a total of chasi tefach mikan, and that's a total of therefore a half of a tefach, chasi tefach mikan l'shilut, which leaves you a gap of a half a tefach on each side. So again, you have a esva l'kaisel mikan, vesva l'kaisel mikan. You have an esva, which is a quarter of a tefach for the thickness of each wall. It's a total of a half. That leaves you a total of 1 tefach, chatzi tefach mikan, v'chatzi tefach mikan l'shilud. So therefore, that leaves you a gap of a tefach on each side, that for shilud to maneuver and put in and take out the luchos, and that's what you had. So therefore, according to Reish Lakish, there obviously was no excess space. You did not have room to put the Sefer Torah inside. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, Reish Lakish goes with the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. We must say, as we'll see shortly, that the Sefer Torah was not placed in the Aron. So that's the basic machlokes. Where was the Sefer Torah? So now the Gemara will continue. Kate said also B'Salas Aron. How did B'Sal build the Aron? So Rav Chanina, he said, Rav Chanina Amar Shloisha Shalosh Tevei Sochsan. He made 3 boxes. Shtaim Shel Zav, 2 were gold, V'achas Shel Eitz, and 1 was made out of wood. Nasan Shel Zav Shel Eitz. He put the golden box into the wooden one, so therefore there was gold on the inside. And Vishal Eitz, Vishal Zav, and then he put the wooden one into the gold box. So therefore, there was gold on the inside, gold on the outside. It was completely covered with gold. V'tzipeu, and then he covered the rim with gold. So it was completely covered in gold. What does it mean when it says titzapenu? It already said that you covered it. To include the upper rim, that the upper rim also had to be, the upper rim of the wooden box also had to be covered in gold. So that's one opinion. Rav Shimon ben Lakish Amar Teva Achaz Asov V'tzipo. No, it was not 3 boxes, it was just 1 box, and he covered with gold. So it was all covered. It was 1 box, and it was covered with gold. So why does it say titzapenu? If here, according to this, there's only 1 box, and if you covered it, even the rim is covered. So Amar Rabbi Pinchas, he says, Lahavi bein neser leneser. Even the different boards, the wooden planks that were used to build the box, even between the planks, between the boards, that was covered with gold. There was put gold between one board and the other, the edges of between one board and the other. So, Ketzar Haya Luchos Ksuvim, how were the Luchos written? Rav Chanina ben Gamliel Loimer. Chamisha Luach 5 of the Dibras were on 1 Luach, V'chamisha Luach Adod Chsiv, like it says in the Pasuk, Vayichtavim al Shnei Luchos Avonim. He wrote them, meaning the Asaras Dibras, the 10 of them. He wrote it on two Luchos, Chamisha Luach V'chamisha Luach. That's one opinion. Rabbanan Amr, they say no. Asara luach zeh, asara luach zeh. It was 10 on each luach. So on each luach, you had the full 10 commandments. Adod chsiv, vayagel lechem es brisay asher tziva eschem lasos aseres advorim. And he said that he commanded the aseres advorim, and it says he wrote them on the two tablets, on the 2 luchos, Asara luach zeh, Asara luach zeh. So he wrote them, and V'aseres advorim vayichtavim al shnei luchos avonim, meaning he wrote 10 on each of the 2. Rav Shimon ben Yochai Omer, he says Esrim al luach zeh, says 20 on this one, Ve'esrim al luach zeh, 20 on each one. So different opinions. Doesn't mean that he wrote them twice on each luach, or did he write them front and back on each luach? Rabbi Simoy Omer, he says, Arboim al luach zeh, v'arboim al luach zeh. There was 40 on each luach. T'chsi mizeh u'mizeh hem ksuvim. It's mizeh u'mizeh hem ksuvim. So one approach, the Pnei Moshe's approach to it, it says twice. It says in Luchos Rishonos, and by the second Luchos also, it says Mizeh Mizeh. Mizeh Mizeh means that it was on both sides. It was written on both sides. So therefore, when we say that it was written on both sides, and it says it twice, that means there were 2 columns. On each side, there were 2 columns. So that's a total of 40. Tatroiga, which is 4. In Greek, it means 4. Chananya ben Achi Rabbi Shua Imer ben Kol Dibur. So another aspect of the Dibras, he says, between each of the Dibras, between the Kol Dibur Dikdukev Voisiyaseh Shel Torah, where the details and the letters of the Torah, meaning the details, the pratim of the mitzvahs were written between the Dibras. Dirshu Memuloim B'Tarshish Kiyama Rabbah. It says in Shir Shirim Memuloim K'Tarshish. So one shot is that the Memuloim K'Tarshish means is that it was like with the precious stones. But another way of understanding Tarshish means like the Yam. It means like the Mediterranean, like the Yam. So therefore, it's Kiyama Rabbah, like the Great Sea, like the Yam HaGadol, like the Mediterranean. So the Gemara elaborates. Rabbi Shimon Lakish cut Havamati Aden Kraya. When he came to this pasuk, he would say, Hava he would say, Yafa Limdani Chanani Ben Achi Rabbi Shua. He says it's a good pshat what he said, because Maha Yamazeh, just like the sea, Ben Gal Gadol Katana, between the large wave and another large wave or smaller waves, is many smaller waves. Kach Ben Kol Dibur V'Dibur Diktukev was Shel Torah. Similarly, between each dibur, the large wave, so it's compared to the Yam HaGadol, between the large wave, between each dibur of the dibros, there was the pratim of the Torah were written. Amar of Tanchum is Kasha's Kumi Rab Pinchas. He had the following kasha asked before Rab Pinchas, Asya Rabbi Yehuda. He said that the pasuk below, which we're going to quote, goes according to, it conforms according to Rabbi Yehuda, but not according to Rabbi Meir. It's Akash and Rabbi Meir. My term, Rabbi Yehuda, why is the pshat, what's the reason Rabbi Yehuda that he says that the Sefer Torah was placed not in the Oren but at the side of the Oren? Dirsiv l'kayach es Sefer Torah zem samtam oisa mitzad Oren bris Hashem. It was placed on the side of the Oren, not inside. Al daited Rabbi Yehuda do Omar echan hayat Sefer Torah nosan. According to Rabbi Yehuda, this pasuk is saying, where was the Torah placed? Kimin gluskia asul lemilchutz, like a box made for it outside of the Oren, not inside. By Sefer Torah nosan b'sayche, it was put inside this box. So this is a rayat Rabbi Yehuda shot, and it's a kash on Rabbi Meir. So why does Rabbi Meir say not that way? Why does he say that it was inside the Oren? My time with Rabbi Meir. Dirshu, the pasuk says, "V'nasat a kapiras ala Aron milmala." It says you cover the Oren with the kapiras on top. Ve'el Aron titines eidos asher eiten alecha, and you place the into the Oren the eidos that I'll give you. So it says the eidos is, what is the eidos asher eiten alecha? This is the Sefer Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu. So it says, therefore, that the Sefer Torah had to be placed inside the Oren. But Rabbi Yehuda says that no, what the Eidos is a reference to is not the Sefer Torah, it's a reference to the Luchos. So now, if that's the case, then how do we understand this pasuk? It says you cover the Oren with the kapiras, and then you put in the luchos. Well, it seems to be out of order. Al daited Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, do Amar in mukta mucha b'Torah. Therefore, we have to say, we're forced to say in mukta mucha b'Torah, and therefore we have to read the psukim as follows: Ella ve'ella Oren titinas ha'edus asher etein alecha. Into the Oren HaKadosh you put the luchos. And then v'achar kach v'nasatas ha'kaparas al milmala, and then cover it. So you have to learn ein mukta mucha. Really, when it says that you cover it with the kapiras, it's really should come after. First, that put in the edus, and then it's the covering of the Oren. Rav Rabbi Pinchas b'shem Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, he said that a Torah shenasal l'Kodesh Baruch Hu l'Moshe, the Sefer Torah that Hashem gave to Moshe Rabbeinu, nitla eish levana charusa be'eish chayra. It was given, kivyach, so to speak, with white fire inscribed with black fire, meaning on a surface of white there was a black fire on top of a white surface. He eish, the Torah's fire, muvleles be'eish, mixed with fire. Chatzuva be'eish, which was that came from eish, was hewn from the Eish of the Kisei HaKavod, on Etzuna Me'esh, and it came from Eish, like the Rabbeinu Shalom is described as Eish Oichlo. And so therefore it's Chatzu Me'esh and Etzuna Me'esh, Dechsiv Me'yamina Eish Daos Lamai. From his right hand, he gave the Torah to the Eish, the fire of the Torah, he gave to them. Like the Mishnah, so we mentioned previously that there were 13 Hishtachavoyos. Where were these bowing downs, these Hishtachavoyos, where were they performed? Arba B'tzaf, and 4 were on the north side of the Azor of Arba B'Dorim, and 4 on the south. Sholosh B'Mizrach, 3 in the Mizrach, Ushtayim B'Marav, and 2 in the west. Keneged Shlosh Asar Shorim, and it was opposite the 13 gates that surrounded the Azara on these sides. The southern gates were close, that they started on adjacent to the west side. They were smuchim to the Marav. Shar Elyon, so the order of them were Shala Elyon, the upper one, the Shar Delek, and the Shar of the kindling gate, where things were burned. Where they had the Lishkas HaEtzim. So it's called the kindling gate because that had the Lishkas HaEtzim, and that's where the wood was brought for it to be burnt on the Mizbeach. Shar HaBechayris, the next one was Shar HaBechayris. That was Shar HaBechayris, that's where the Bechor Behem was brought, and other Kochim Kalim, they were brought in that area because these are Kochim Kalim, and the Shlit also was Bedorim. So they were brought through that gate. And then was Shar HaMayim, the gate of the water. Why was it called Shar HaMayim? Sheboy Machnisim Sluchis, because through there they brought the flask of water, Shal Nisach HaMayim B'Chag, that they used to do the Nisach HaWine, the pouring of the water on Sukkos. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Aimer, he says, Boy HaMayim Mefachim, over there the waters trickle down. That's where the water trickled through there. And in Losad Lovai, they are going to come, if they're destined to come, onto the threshold of the bias. So there will be the stream of water that the Navi talks about, that is menab on the future, that there'll be this stream of water flowing from the base of Megdish. Lum also opposite that, but Salfine Smuchim B'Mar. Opposite that on the north side are the gates, opposite the south ones, also starting from the Marav. Shar Yechonia, it was the gate of Yechonia, that was called that gate because that's where he was brought out when he was exiled. Shar HaKorban, the Shar of the Korban, that's the Shar that the Kochim were brought there. There, the Shchitos was B'tzofan. So that was there on that gate, that was brought out, because that's where the Shchita was B'tzofan. And Shar HaNoshim, and the Shar of the Noshim, that where women did smicha on their korbanos, they're not mechuyev, but they did smicha, so they did it through that gate. Shar HaShir, the gate of the song, that's where the Levium, they brought their musical instruments through there, through that Shar. And V'lama Shman Nikrashma Shar Yechaina, Sheboy Yotza Yechaina Begalusa, when he was exiled, he went through that Shar. Shebe Mizrach Shar Nikoner, on the east were the gates of Nikoner. They were named after Nikoner, who was Meiser Nefesh for these doors, and there were a great nace happened as a result of the Mesiris Nefesh. Ushnei Pishvashim Hayuloi, and there were two minor doorways. There was Echad Me'imina v'Echad Esmaila, one on the right side, one on the left. Ushnaim B'Marav Lo Hayalem Shem, the two on the west didn't have a name, they were not frequently used, so no name was given to them.